So the way this historically works, and we'll go through it cycle by cycle, is Bitcoin goes up in July and August, gets a pullback, generally speaking, to the bull market support band in September, and then goes into the market cycle top in Q4 of the post-halving year, which sets up the midterm year bear market. Okay?
Benjamin Cowen talks about Bitcoin, the pattern that has ended bull markets before. He shows charts, history, and data.
So that is the 2013 cycle peak. And you can see how this pattern will repeat itself in the next cycle. So let's just go through it. So first of all, we have up in July and August, right? Here's July and August, right? Up in July and August. And then you get your pullback. Where to? Glad you asked. The bull market support band. So you get your pullback in September to that 20-week SMA, just like in 2013. And then what happens after that? You got your final rally into the market cycle top, right? So you got your final rally right here after that September pullback. You see that? And then what happened in Q4 of 2017? Just like in 2013, you got your market cycle top, which then set up the midterm year bear market, right? The path that took Bitcoin to each of those market cycle tops was remarkably the same. If you look closely, one of the things you'll notice with Bitcoin monthly returns is that in every post-halving year, in July and August, Bitcoin is green. You'll see in 2013, July and August were green. And in 2017, July and August were green. And in 2021, July and August were green. And so far in 2025, July and August are green. You'll also notice that in 2013, 2017, and 2021, September was red. And then in every one of those post-election years, post-halving years, October was green after the pullback in September.
Bitcoin enters a new week under pressure as a sharp sell-off erased $10,000 from its latest all-time high. Traders are split on what comes next. Some believe manipulation drove the sudden drop, with large players buying at lower prices after forcing liquidations. Others see weak volume and fading momentum, drawing comparisons to the 2021 top. Order book data shows $114,000 as a key zone of interest, while traders highlight $112,000 as a downside level to watch. On the flip side, reclaiming $120,000 could set up the next leg higher. Analysts argue that dip buyers may have stopped the train, keeping price in a period of consolidation before another attempt at strength. This week's Jackson Hole meeting adds another layer of risk. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell will give a speech closely watched for signals on interest rates. Rising inflation and weaker labor data leave policy uncertain. At the same time, investors are watching ongoing discussions about a potential Russia-Ukraine peace deal. Despite price weakness, Coinbase premium data shows strong U.S. demand. Some believe large entities are quietly accumulating, preparing for the next major move.
Right? So now we have this pattern playing out 3 times, right? It's now played out 3 times, where every post-halving year, that's how the cycle has ultimately ended. How's it going this time? Well, let's go take a look, right? So far, we already know if you look at the monthly returns, Bitcoin has gone up in July, and August is still, not even halfway through. So the jury is still out on whether that will remain green. But if it does, let's suppose it plays out like the historical pattern, right? So up in July and August, pull back to the 20-week SMA in September if it repeats how it always has, and then up into whatever the market cycle top's going to be. I have no idea, but I'll stick to the risk metric, which would then probably set up the midterm year bear market, right? Something like that. Now, I don't know exactly where that top is going to be, but I will say there has been a pattern of diminishing returns, unfortunately. And if you take a price range from every September pullback, you'll notice that after the let me go to the first cycle first, right? After the first cycle from the 20-week SMA in September, Bitcoin then rallied about 1,000% to then put in the market cycle top. In the cycle after that, it rallied about 500% after the September pullback. In the cycle after that, from the September pullback, it rallied about 70%. Okay? So the bull market support band in September will likely be higher than it is now. Currently, the bull market support band for Bitcoin ranges from around 105 to 107K. So maybe in September, that 20-week SMA could correspond to around 110K, plus or minus a few $1,000s, right? Plus or minus a few K, $110,000 plus or minus a few thousand. What's a few $1,000s, my friends, right? So then it would set up a potential final rally into the market cycle top. Now, let's suppose that the 20-week SMA hits around 110K here in a few weeks. And then let's suppose Bitcoin gets a pullback to that level after hopefully first rallying up higher. Where would that put Bitcoin? Well, a 20% rally from 110K puts it at 131. And there's a chance that it goes to 130 before you get a pullback for the 20-week SMA, right? Let's just go through it, right? 20% from there would be 131. 30% from there would be 143. 40% from there would be 154.
Alt season's future depends heavily on how China handles its slowing economy and how global investors react to growing recession fears. The People's Bank of China has hinted at possible stimulus measures, which would increase liquidity in financial markets. More liquidity often flows into risk assets, including cryptocurrencies. If China introduces aggressive policies, altcoins could gain enough momentum to break past old highs. The relationship between global liquidity and digital assets is clear. A recent 21 Shares report found a 94% correlation between Bitcoin prices and worldwide liquidity. This is stronger than the correlation with stocks or gold. With China representing nearly 20% of global GDP, its policies carry significant weight. Recent economic data showed weakness in retail sales, fixed asset investment, and rising unemployment, adding pressure on the central bank to act soon. Investors are also watching U.S. markets. Treasury yields have moved higher, signaling less risk aversion. The S&P 500 reached new highs despite consumer surveys showing rising recession fears. If Chinese stimulus arrives while investors stay optimistic, liquidity could rotate into altcoins. This setup might be enough to push crypto markets into their next major phase. If you have been watching so far, thank you so much for watching, and do not forget to subscribe to Bitcoinzilla for daily news, all for free. That's all for today's video. Until next time.